Hey yo, what is going on guys? Cash and Clean here, and for today's video I just wanted to talk about tempered block elements and just the block elements in general. So if you clicked on this video, you probably want to know the best way of farming these things because you probably want to finish your profession or just upgrade your crystal gear, specifically the crystal 5 gear. Now for crystal 5 you don't need the block elements, but you will need the tempered block elements. Both of these are untradeable and they can be kind of time consuming to farm if you're kind of slow at it. But then if you're also fast at it, it could also be a little bit slow. There's a few different ways to go about this. So the best way at the moment is doing U10 ships, but specifically private ones. If you don't know what a U10 ship is, you basically go to U10 Standard Uplands, you find a 5-star dungeon. Just make sure it's not the tower with like the platforms, it's the ship. You want to make sure you have cleaners in every single room. You want to have someone at the boss room, and you want to have someone pressing E at the little hub area to start the next wave. Now, when you're doing ships, you're going to be getting a lot of XP, you're going to be getting a lot of Gearcrafters vaults, and you get to just be AFK pretty much. You can just switch your keybinds for the primary attack and have it like on your keyboard, and then just have like a weighted item on that specific key on the keyboard. So basically you're just always doing your primary fire, but sometimes check in on the game in case you crash or if you're gonna get kicked for AFK. And the cool thing about these ships is that if you do have a decent group, you're gonna be flying through these waves. You're gonna be getting a bunch of boxes, a bunch of XP, which the XP will help you get more primal paragon pinatas, more flux essentially, but we're not gonna talk about that part for this video. But the main thing that I do want to talk about for these ships is that you want to make sure you don't have more than 8 people. Now you might have some people AFK or some people just join off you, but you can try to find some private ones. What you could do is do /join ship, and you'll be in a chat with a bunch of people that want to do ships. So as long as you're finding these ships, you can just invite 8 people. Make sure you're on /hide so people can't just randomly join you, and then make sure you have your rally blade off. So just go to the rally blade, hold E and double check that people can't teleport to you, and you can set that all up. Make sure that your world is not full, otherwise the people can't join you. And once you're there, you can assign each person to a specific room so you can actually farm this. And just know that when you're in certain rooms, you're not really in range of all of the objectives, but some of the rooms are. And if you're not within the range of the objectives, you won't be getting as many boxes, but it's not the end of the world. So most people will do this with either Boomeranger or Draco. There are other classes that you could use, but those are like the 2 main ones. And what you could do is, if you pick Shadowhunter for example, you can kind of back up and find a spot where you are in range of all the objectives, because if you are in range, that means you'll just get more of the boxes, and the boxes will help you get some block elements, and specifically the tempered block elements. Now the trickiest situation is if you get a bunch of people that are AFKing in your ship, that means you have less of a chance to get these boxes, because for whatever reason it just goes to the nearest 8 people. So it's just like a pinata. So when you throw a pinata, basically it's just the nearest 8 people, or I guess 7 technically if you're not including yourself. But the nice thing is if you host the private one, you can just assign someone to each room. You might not always be in range of the objectives, but you'll be in range of most of them, and each time one gets completed you'll get more boxes. And the idea is in U10 you're gonna get at least 2. And if you haven't already, you could get these from the marketplace. We have the Gyroto Flyer and the Geardra. So depending on if you're using a magic damage character or a physical damage character, you will be getting less light and less damage overall with these allies, but they will give you a chance to get +1 Gearcrafters Vault when completing a dungeon. So instead of your normal 2, sometimes you'll get 3. And then if you happen to use the potion, if you go to the store, there's some potions that you can use to try to increase your chances of getting these things. You can go up to 5, maybe even 6. I don't think it's 6, maybe up to 5 of these Gearcrafter vaults per objective. So if you can imagine, if you're in a private ship, so each wave you're gonna have 5 objectives, then you have the boss at every prime number, and you can do that all the way up to the 80s depending on your light. I think even up to the 90s. I could be wrong on that. And if you have a pretty good group, you're gonna fly through these waves pretty quickly. So after you guys finish, you can maybe coordinate it and try to get another ship, maybe either in that world or a different one. You can make like a private chat with each other, because if you didn't know, you can just do /join and then type in anything and you can join that specific chat. So for example, you could just do like /join cash and clean, and then whoever does that will be able to see messages in that, kind of like a global chat, but just for whoever typed in the /join command. Now those of you on console, I know the update's not out right now at the time of me recording this, but you guys can do the same process. It's just gonna be a little bit trickier because I don't think you can change keybinds. Maybe you can. If you can, change your primary fire to like X or something on your controller or whatever that is on the Switch, and just have something weighted pressing down on it so you're always doing your primary fire, and then just coordinate a private ship and stuff like that. So basically all I'm trying to emphasize here is private ships are really good for these tempered block elements. It's kind of weird because this update's kind of like a huge grind type thing, but everyone's just AFK. So I guess you can have something in the background. You can watch some YouTube, you can watch my videos, have a movie going, anime, anything really. You can even play another game if you wanted to, but we're not going to get into that. But anyway, that's for the tempered block elements. So for the regular block elements, if you're trying to finish your gear crafting profession, it shouldn't take you a huge amount of time because you can farm these things in U6. Just make sure you can collect all of your gear, even the legendaries and the relics and all that low tier stuff. So you can go back into your settings and change that. If you already collect everything, that's already fine. But if we go over here to the loot collector, I just want to show you guys what to expect basically. So you don't need high magic find, but it does help out. So I'm just going over the gear. This is basically what to expect with the block elements. So just know that the higher rarity, the more you're going to get. And then the higher level of that gear, the more you're going to get as well. So the shadow level 5 is going to give me 11. So if you're constantly doing dungeons, and you can do this in U6 until they patch that, or if they ever patch it, I don't know if they will, but just in case if they don't, then you can just farm in U6. And if you are a little bit higher power rank and you're a little bit stronger than that, then you can go over here to U8 or U9 or even U10 for that matter, and you can farm dungeons more efficiently over there because the dungeons are more close together. And if you play Shadowhunter, if you see my Shadowhunter OP video, or I can't remember what I titled it, or why Shadowhunter is OP, something like that, you'll know that Shadowhunter can shoot through walls, so you can just shoot the enemies through the walls. But you will have to collect the gear, so I guess that part's not really efficient. But just make sure you're collecting your gear as much as you can and loot collecting them. And if you do that, you should be able to finish your gear crafting profession within about a day. It kind of just depends on how often you guys play, but you can finish it within a couple days if you don't spend too much time playing. It does seem like a lot, but you guys can get there. I know you can. Then once you finish your gear crafting profession, you could theoretically just save these boxes until you hit 45k PR, because once you get max level in the profession, all that's left is 45k, and then you'll have all of these boxes to open to try to get some crystal 5. And even if you don't get crystal 5, you'll be getting some tempered block elements. And if you want to know the resources it takes to forge your crystal 5 gear, I'll put a link in the description just so you guys can check out how much resources you'll need. Because if you can get crystal 5 from the Gearcrafters vault, that's 2 levels, and that's just more resources that you get to save. Sometimes, very rarely, you could get a crystal 5 with 3 stars on it, but for the most part, you're just going to be getting a bunch of crystal 4 gear if you're 45k PR, and then sometimes crystal 5. Even if you're not 45k PR, you could get a bunch of crystal 4, and if you loot collect these crystal 4 gears, that's going to be a lot of block elements as well. So that's another way to get these block elements. So hopefully everything I said does make sense. So try to do private ships. That's going to be a super important one if you can. Try not to get more than 10 people because you do want to try to get as much of these Gearcrafters vaults as you can. And whenever you're not doing a ship, just make sure you're out in either U6 or Geotopside U8 or U9 or whatever the case may be, or just go to U11 and try to find some 5-star dungeons, see if you can get your luck with some crystal 5 gear. Just know that if you do get it from over there, it's going to have 0 stars on it, so you're going to have to spend more resources. And there was a recent patch, so the drop rates are going to be kind of terrible on both the Gearcrafters vault and the 5-star dungeons, but that's kind of all that we can do here for now. And that's going to be everything I wanted to talk about in this video. If something new does come up, I will try to drop that in a future video for you guys. And if you guys are curious on how to get crystal 5 and the best way of doing that, you can check out this video on the screen right now. And on that note, thank you all so much for listening, watching, viewing, and subscribing, and I will talk to you all later.